I created a system called the ring writing system, and it is based on the steps required to create a handcrafted engagement ring. I think I came up with this while watching The Rings of Power or something. Very underwhelming show, but it did give me a good idea. So most of my time is spent over on this side, and I have three major phases of my process: the research part, the writing part, and the rewriting part. Probably 60 to 70% of my time is spent in research. Um, and it has three steps. So step one is prospecting. This is when I identify the sources that I'm going to use for my information gathering. Step two is mining. So I actually go in and I pull out as much relevant information as I possibly can to fuel my writing. This is a big differentiator between a low level writer and mid to high level writers is an abundance of research and becoming a sales detective. This is absolutely crucial. You can't short this on any project. Next comes the smelting. This is when I take all of the raw research that I've done and I boil it down to the bare bones, most relevant details. So these are like pain points that people want to avoid, or they are desired benefits. They could be emotional triggers that keep coming up throughout the research process. I keep all of those, I boil it all down, and I organize it so that it's very easy to reference and use. Then step four, I take my research and compare it to the asset that I am writing. So let's say I have a research document. I know I'm writing an email or a series of emails. I map out how I'm going to use all of that information and in what order. This creates what I call the blueprint. It's very similar to an outline. Then I go into the smithing phase, where you combine the blueprint and the outline with the research document that I have created earlier on in the process, and that creates what is called the rough draft. And it can sometimes be very rough. I try to knock this out as quickly as possible. I just want it to be as raw, as fast, as bare bones as I can, because then the real work begins in the rewriting phase. Because once I have that first rough draft, I go into the crafting phase, which is brutal rewriting. Sometimes of the whole thing, sometimes not. It just depends on how well the rough draft goes, and this allows me to be really sure of the writing that I create. It's not like, oh, I barely knocked it out and just in time for the deadline. No, I have created something that is more or less passable, um, or at least something that resembles the final product long before I turn it in. And this ends up taking a lot of time, this rewriting process. So by the time I have gone through at least once or twice and I feel pretty good about it, I am left with what's called the first draft. Lastly, the very last thing I do, and this could be the day before or the day of the deadline, I go back through it again with the finest tooth comb that I possibly can and make any final tweaks, rearrangements, edits, revisions, those types of things. Not included on this page is that for every copy asset I create, I offer a 2-week revision period so that people can test it out. You don't have to completely gamble on me. You pay me, and I give you this asset. You can test it for a week and get it revised, and then you can test it for another week and get it revised again, or you can just test it after 2 weeks. It's up to you. But there is a 2-week window where I will provide 2 free revisions for any copy that I create.